They found no collusion whatsoever with Russia. The reason they found it is there was no collusion at all.
In the late 1960s and early 1970s, America underwent two major political scandals. The first was a scandal called the Pentagon Papers. Based on a 20-year study by the Defense Department on Vietnam, after the papers were revealed in media reports, it became clear the Johnson administration systematically lied, not only to the public, but also to Congress about the U.S. military role there. The second scandal was nicknamed Watergate. It involved a break-in at the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee, which was located at the Watergate Hotel in Washington, D.C. The break-in was eventually linked to the administration of Republican President Richard Nixon. As Nixon resisted congressional investigations into the scandal, the country lurched toward a constitutional crisis. When all was said and done, 69 people were indicted. 48 were found guilty, many of whom were top Nixon administration officials. The president, fearing impeachment, resigned from office August 9, 1974. For decades, these two scandals stood as the most serious in the history of our country. But over the past year, another scandal of an even greater magnitude has begun to unfold. This scandal involves the administration of President Barack Obama.
But there's something on that person, maybe religion, maybe it says he's a Muslim, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want that, or he may not have one. But I will tell you this, if he wasn't born in this country, it's one of the great scams of all time.
Absolutely.
But what makes this scandal even bigger is that it extends beyond the president's inner circle. Unlike in the Johnson and Nixon era scandals, this one involves the utter politicizing of our country's top law enforcement authorities, the FBI and the Department of Justice. Together, and with the likely help and knowledge of Obama, they worked to ensnare a presidential candidate they considered to be an outsider, an enemy of the established political order, a buffoonish interloper, Donald J. Trump, from assuming his rightful, duly elected place in the Oval Office.
Make America great again.
When Trump declared his candidacy in June 2015, no one took him seriously. But then something happened. By August of 2015, Trump had lurched ahead in the polls, outpacing 16 other candidates, most of whom had years of political experience. By early 2016, Trump began to emerge as the GOP candidate to beat. He began winning one primary after another, after another, after another.
Senator's picked from the buffet there.
He's a nasty guy.
As more and more Republican hopefuls dropped out of the race, Trump's popularity surged. He began drawing tens of thousands of supporters to his political rallies.
Show him how many people come to these rallies. Turn them. Go ahead, turn them. Go ahead.
Opposing him would be the Democrats' hand-picked successor to President Obama, Hillary Clinton, for what they essentially considered a coronation, not simply as Obama's successor, but the first woman president who was finally ready, after years of unfair delays and disruptions, to take her rightful place as head of the free world.
NBC News is now declaring Hillary Clinton the presumptive Democratic nominee.
No way in the world was any Republican nominee going to beat her, especially someone named Donald Trump. At first, the Clinton campaign and the deep state wrote off Trump as a carnival act and a political sideshow.
Look, without Derek Zoolander, male modeling wouldn't be what it is today.
Actually, hiring Eddie was my idea from the beginning.
Excuse me, where's the lobby?
Down the hall and to the left.
Thanks.
No one took his candidacy seriously. But then, he won the Republican nomination, and everything changed. In April 2016, emails and other documents that allegedly had been hacked from computers belonging to the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta, began to be published online. The emails were damaging. They indicated a conspiracy among the Democratic elite to rig the primary process in favor of Clinton and to the detriment of her principal challenger for the party's nomination, Senator Bernie Sanders. Like Trump with Republicans, Sanders was energizing the Democratic progressive base. He too was drawing major crowds to his campaign events. In seeing that, the senior Democratic leadership weren't going to let another popular Democratic candidate upset their plans this time around, like Obama upset Clinton's plans in 2008. The emails and documents allegedly hacked from the DNC and Podesta showed that the Democratic hierarchy, in conjunction with the Clinton campaign, worked behind the scenes to sabotage Sanders' chances. A plot revealing how most superdelegates were already pledging to support Clinton at the Democratic National Convention later in the summer, no matter how well Sanders did in the primaries, was laid bare in the published emails and documents. With Sanders taken care of and the Hillary nomination all but sewn up, the deep state turned its attention to the upstart Republican candidate. As the summer of 2016 began, and Trump's popularity was rising, operatives within the Clinton campaign, the deep state, and Obama White House concocted an insurance plan of sorts to put in place should Trump somehow, some way, come out on top in the upcoming November election.
I heard it like you did. I said that is really now in a whole new level of unfairness.
Beginning in July 2016, men and women of the FBI and Justice Department launched an operation to spy on Trump's campaign. Disguised as a counterintelligence probe, the FBI would even go so far as to cultivate sources within Trump's campaign. The operation would be based on a fabricated allegation of Russian collusion. Fusion GPS is an opposition research firm. This is the firm that produced a quote-unquote fake intelligence dossier on Trump designed to support the allegations of Trump campaign collusion with Russia. In October 2016, the FBI went to the FISA court and successfully obtained a counterintelligence surveillance warrant to use against Trump campaign official Carter Page. By law, U.S. spy agencies are forbidden to spy on American citizens. But again, Obama's FBI was claiming that the Trump campaign was the target of a counterintelligence operation involving a foreign government. Agents repeatedly used the bogus dossier to justify the initial and subsequent FISA warrants against the Trump campaign and later administration officials. With the operation well underway, Trump did what no one expected him to do. He won the November 8, 2016 election, defeating Hillary by an electoral landslide. The unthinkable had happened. It was now time for a stunned deep state to implement its quote-unquote insurance policy, to undermine Trump, saddle him with bogus charges of colluding with a foreign government to steal the election, and run him out of office.
Same time, Peter Strzok, who was picked to objectively, fairly, neutrally look into the Russia investigation, was talking about an insurance policy with Andy McCabe and Lisa Page in the event Donald Trump became the president. All this was at the same time that this FBI agent said a Trump presidency would be effing terrifying.
The outline of this plot was sketched in August 2016. FBI counterterrorism agent Peter Strzok exchanged text messages with FBI lawyer Lisa Page, with whom he was having an affair. Strzok texted, "I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. Andy was believed to be Andrew McCabe, the FBI deputy director, who has since been fired for his role in this plot. Moving ahead, the deep state began to target members of Trump's incoming administration for elimination. The first to fall victim to this campaign of slander and lies was Michael Flynn, a retired Army lieutenant general whom Trump picked to be his national security advisor. In December 2016, Flynn and his wife traveled for a post-election vacation to the Dominican Republic for a much-needed rest. While there, the Obama administration did something out of character. The White House expelled 35 suspected Russian intelligence officers from the United States and forced the closure of Russian-owned compounds in Maryland and New York, ostensibly in response for collusion and interference in the election. The expulsions angered and confused the Russians. Flynn received a call from Russia's ambassador to the U.S., Sergei Kislyak, in which they discussed the expulsions. This would not be seen as improper, given that Flynn was the incoming national security advisor to then-President-elect Trump. And no doubt that Flynn, a former Defense Intelligence Agency chief, would know that U.S. intelligence agencies would be listening into the conversation, because after all, he was speaking with a diplomat from a potentially adversarial country. It isn't known what the two men actually said, but just a few weeks later, when Flynn joined the rest of the transition team in the White House, he was visited by two FBI agents. One of the agents questioning Flynn was struck. The second agent, who would not publicly be identified until May 2018, was Special Agent Joe Pientka. When the questioning was over, both agents went back to Deputy Director McCabe and reported that nothing Flynn said was out of the ordinary. However, McCabe, for some reason, was not satisfied with that answer. In February 2017, his identity was leaked to the media by an Obama-era operative as having had discussions with the Russian diplomat, again, as part of the fabricated Russia collusion narrative. Those would have been the discussions he had while vacationing in the Dominican Republic, a conversation that was not in any way illegal or improper. But it cast Flynn in a suspicious light, and that appeared to be the objective. Soon after, he resigned over allegedly lying to Vice President Mike Pence. In reality, someone in Obama's Justice Department told the Trump transition team, including Trump himself, that Flynn had badly mischaracterized his conversation with the Russian ambassador and that he could be vulnerable to blackmail. It was nothing short of a political coup, but Flynn would not be the last victim of this incredible scandal. The following month, the deep state's dominoes began to fall. In March 2017, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes traveled to the White House to view, on a secure computer, what he later would describe as disturbing evidence, namely, that U.S. intelligence had very likely been abused and politicized to effectively undermine Trump's campaign. The same month, FBI Director Comey testified before the House Intelligence Committee with the NSA's Admiral Rogers. Comey was asked about the Bureau's counterintelligence investigation into the Trump campaign team. Specifically, he was asked by Representative Elise Stefanik what the Bureau's procedures were with regard to informing congressional oversight committees about new and ongoing counterintelligence operations. Comey said that while it wasn't written policy, it was the Bureau's practice to inform Congress, along with the President and Director of National Intelligence, about such investigations every 3 months. But the Trump probe had been underway since July of 2016. Yet after nearly 9 months, Comey still had not notified Congress of what was arguably the most important counterintelligence investigation to date. Comey could not adequately answer Stefanik's question, except to say he did not do so because of the, quote, sensitivity of the matter, unquote. But here's what Comey also said. He told Stefanik that he informed Trump's newly appointed Director of National Security, Dan Coats, about the investigation on Coats's first morning on the job. Very shortly thereafter, Nunes traveled to the White House to read through the disturbing evidence. Either Coats sensed a problem early on. He is, after all, a former member of the Senate Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and is well aware of policy and procedure. Or Nunes himself was briefed by Rogers. Either way, it made no sense for Comey to insist that his failure to inform Congress of the most consequential counterintelligence investigation in modern history was due to its sensitive nature. In the wake of his findings, Nunes informed the president before he informed the Intelligence Committee, which angered Democrats on the panel. He was then forced to recuse himself from his own committee's investigation into all matters Russia, which included the bogus Russian collusion narrative. The House Ethics Committee would find that he did nothing wrong, but it would take 9 long months, during which time the Russian collusion narrative continued to fester, though without any proof. Trump's presidency started off very stormy, amid a rash of leaks, many of which sought to embarrass the outsider president and turned out to be fake. Trump and his new administration were reeling under a withering media assault. One of the earliest casualties was National Security Advisor Flynn. The second casualty was Trump's Attorney General and former U.S. Senator from Alabama, Jeff Sessions. Under withering pressure from a Democrat-aligned press and hit with new reports of collusion with Russian operatives, Sessions announced in March 2017 he would recuse himself from any Russia-related investigation conducted by the Justice Department or FBI. Things only got more tumultuous. In May, Trump, acting on the counsel of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, fired FBI Director James Comey, setting off another media firestorm that included charges of obstruction of justice and talk of impeachment. Soon afterward, during sworn congressional testimony in May 2017, Comey would reveal that he leaked classified memos to a Columbia University friend, who then passed them along to the media. The memos claim that Trump tried to pressure Comey into clearing him publicly of any collusion charges and to let Flynn off the hook, all allegations the president denied. During that same testimony, Comey revealed that he hoped the leak would spur the appointment of a special counsel to investigate alleged Trump-Russia collusion. He got his wish. Within days of his firing, Rosenstein appointed former FBI Director Robert Mueller as a special counsel who was given limitless authority to investigate anything he wanted surrounding alleged Trump-Russia collusion. Oddly, there was little official questioning at the time of Comey's motivations or the fact that classified data had been leaked to the media by, at the time, a serving FBI director. As summer approached, the Russian collusion narrative began to crumble. Despite an avalanche of leaks, no hard evidence of any collusion was produced, despite the existence of several congressional and federal investigations. Also, the allegations contained in the salacious Trump dossier began to fall apart as well. Not only had none of the claims been substantiated by leaks or any other evidence, trickles of information began to suggest that there was something nefarious about the 35-page dossier. In June 2017, Paul Sperry, writing for the New York Post, was among the first to report that the Trump dossier may be tied to the Democratic Party, according to sources. His claim was followed by a report the following month, in July 2017, by Wall Street Journal columnist Kimberly Strassel. She also suggested the dossier was very likely tied to Democrats. Other reporting made similar claims in the days and weeks following these initial stories. In September of 2017, Carter Page, the one-time Trump campaign foreign policy advisor, who was the target of the FBI's FISA warrants, became the third figure to file suit in federal court to clear his name. This action surprised many Americans, who believed the Trump-Russia collusion narrative because it was a bold rejection of such claims by a central figure in the case. Then the following month, the Washington Post finally confirmed what had looked increasingly likely. Not only did the Democratic National Committee help finance the dossier, but so too did the campaign of Hillary Clinton, a bombshell revelation. The deep state's house of cards was beginning to tumble. By now, it was becoming clearer that the dossier was less an intelligence document and more like a bought and paid for piece of political opposition research, something unprecedented in modern American politics. That speculation was confirmed in February 2018. The dossier was a political opposition research document, not an intelligence report. And furthermore, none of it had even been substantiated. The memo also revealed that the FBI relied on an unsubstantiated political document to obtain a FISA court warrant so that agents could spy on a member of a rival political campaign. A bombshell revelation. According to one media report, the memo revealed, quote, serial abuses of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court by upper echelon officials in the FBI and Justice Department to prevent Donald J. Trump from becoming president and to undermine him after he defeated Hillary Clinton in November 2016, unquote. Over the next few months, more of the plot unraveled. It was learned in March 2018 that Obama's FBI had cultivated a source, a mark if you will, inside the Trump campaign. His name is George Papadopoulos, and he has since been indicted by Mueller for lying to FBI agents about being hand-fed information by two FBI operatives that Russia had, quote, thousands, unquote, of Hillary's emails. In March 2018, the Daily Caller News Foundation reported that the deep state operative working Papadopoulos was Stephen Halper. Known to the CIA and British intelligence, Halper, a Cambridge University professor, has served 3 Republican administrations, dating back to Richard Nixon. He is believed to be one of 2 people who fed Papadopoulos the phony information about Clinton's emails, information that has yet to be verified. Today, the most ambitious yet sinister plot to stymie a legitimate presidential nominee and duly elected president is still unfolding. There is much more to learn. But what we already know points to the kind of abuse of our political and justice systems that never should be allowed to happen in America. We know that our systems of checks and balances are only as good as the people we entrust to enforce them. And we know as well that beyond any doubt, there truly is a deep state, a secretive political establishment whose unseen hands are behind the worst political scandal in our lives.